It being 8:30, we'll get started with the housing subcommittee meeting. I'm at the disadvantage of not having attended one of the committee meetings 2 weeks ago. Senator Ennis, welcome. So I'd like to take up Senate Bill 564. We can start with that one.
Where are we, Senator?
Just started on Senate Bill 564,
Okay.
and that you are the prime sponsor of that bill. It is very similar to a bill that I had filed, Senate Bill 509.
Sorry, I just got off radio, so I'm a little.
Your head still in GIR?
Yeah, it is. Okay.
So
So which one are we on?
Senate Bill 564.
Okay.
My reading is that Senate Bill 564 does two things. It stops towns from placing limits on maximum road length,
Yes.
and it allows towns to place utilities within open space and perimeter buffer areas.
Mm-hmm. Do you want a motion?
Well, it is similar to 509,
Mm-hmm.
but 509 only does the first of those things.
Okay.
I certainly like your bill better, I think.
All right.
So you are the chair of the committee, Senator Ennis. So
Yes.
I'll take a motion on 564.
All right, I'll move on to pass.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor, all to pass?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. You will recommend all to pass.
So I'll note that 564 deals with the zoning section of
Yeah.
that statute, and the other one deals with the planning board section of the statute, so I'm fine having them.
All right.
So
Separately.
having dealt with that, let's turn to 509.
Mm-hmm.
What's the will of the subcommittee here? We could recommend holding it, it's not an FN, and that way we've got a vehicle. If we have anything else that comes up we want to deal with.
Yeah, we could do that. Probably not a bad idea. So let that one sit.
We'll let that one sit.
Okay.
There was an issue with the effective date on that too. I looked at the statute, and another piece that it pairs with is effective July 1st of this year.
509.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we'd have to figure that out.
We'll hold that.
Okay.
And if 564 runs into any obstacles, or any other bill for that matter, we can. Let's turn to 508, please.
Uh-huh. This is yours.
So we did have some opposition from Mr. Deshay.
Yeah.
I don't see here. The point that he made that I heard reiterated several times was that the time frame may not be enough. It says 3 business days.
Yeah.
So is there another number that might work better there?
5? Or is that the same thing?
I can think that.
I mean, 5 is a business week.
Right.
I think that what the industry is looking for here is some consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's 3 or 5 or 10, I don't think they really are going to care, as long as there's a number that's there that they can count on.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be 5, 10. It can't be 30 sometimes.
Right.
Or 60 for that matter.
Yeah. Come join us.
How's this? Mr. Maverick, come on up. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, let's talk to them. Got these folks.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking at Senate Bill 508, and we heard some opposition or some concern during the hearing that 3 days was not enough time. On line 14 of the bill, each town shall stamp and accept revised plans submitted by an applicant within 3 days of submission. Is there another number that might work for you, in your opinion, or your industry, that would also work for them?
Yes, sir. I think that if you went to 14 calendar days,
10 business days.
that would be great. Even if you went to 15 business days, that's fine. They just didn't want it held up for months at a time. Please.
I understand.
All right.
What I would suggest 10 days. But
10. 2 weeks effectively.
It's 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can support that.
What do you think, Senator?
Like,
Okay. So we will recommend an amendment on line 14 to 10 business days from 3.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other concerns or issues with this bill? All right, I'll look for a motion.
I'll move on to pass as amended.
second,
We'll recommend all to pass as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Let's go to 415. And 415 is not one that I know a lot about, so I'm going to rely heavily on you, colleagues. I was not here for this hearing.
Okay. Well, I'm going to rely on Senator Reardon.
I like 415.
Mhm.
The 10-unit limit, an exemption from filing with the
Right,
AG's office
Yep.
was set in 1977,
Mhm.
where condo developments weren't booming all over the state of New Hampshire.
Yep.
And I think we've progressed a lot since that time. You actually had to draft your own declaration and bylaws back then, where now there are millions of templates to choose from. So I think it would not harm us to move that number up. I think 50 is a lot.
It is a lot, and I remember having that thought. I was
Yeah.
thinking 20 might be fine, but 50 is big for
Exactly.
condos. Yeah.
I agree with 20. I printed out the index to our 356B, the Condominium Act, and there are still a multitude of things that a condo developer has to comply with. It's just that they're not, the contents of their bylaws, the declaration, all of that kind of stuff. It's just that they're not going to do a registration with the AG's office, and the AG admitted there was one attorney and one paralegal that did this and a lot of other things. So we'll give it a try. If it's
Yeah.
epic fail, then we'll move the number back.
So do you want to put it at 20, a committee amendment?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Chair, what do you think?
Reading the comments, even those who opposed the bill suggested that going to 20 would be reasonable.
Yep.
So I would support that based on what I've heard.
Okay, so we'll make a committee amendment. And I'll move on to pass as amended.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we've dealt with those. That leaves us one bill.
Yep.
The one that's going to be the most time-consuming, Senate Bill 523.
Okay.
Again, I was not here for this hearing, but I certainly read the hearing report pretty thoroughly, and I've had some conversations with others about it. So I would like to hear the will of the subcommittee on this issue.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Rear.
Thank you. I think registering builders is a great idea in light of the stories that we heard about abuses
Yeah.
that have happened, and not just a couple, but a lot of abuses of people showing up at a doorstep or taking a deposit, even in a known situation, and there not being any resolve except for litigation to do something about that.
Mhm.
This is a really comprehensive thing to do. This isn't filling out a one-page form and filing it with somebody so they know who to serve when they get sued. It's a lot, and it's not that we don't do this with other occupations,
Mhm.
but we do at the OPLC with other occupations. And it is so foreign to me to think about this being in the Department of Labor, where even elevators seem random to be at the Department of Labor elevator inspection. So I'm not opposed to this, but I think it takes a lot of looking at, and a lot of work, and a lot of more questions answered to get to a comfortable place.
And I think Senator Reardon captured it pretty well. It's a little tricky. And yet you want those protections at some level. And that's-
Okay. So I'm going to be a quiet no on this. I'm not going to make a big production out of it,
Mhm.
but I'll explain to you why. And it's sort of like the crypto bill that we're dealing with right now in the Commerce Committee. I just have a philosophical objection to protecting people from making bad decisions. I think people are responsible for their own actions. And I also don't like regulating industries, even when certain people in the industries want to be regulated. Um, because those regulations and the costs associated with meeting them tend to be a barrier to entry into the market.
True.
So, you know, God forbid we have an industry that we don't regulate to death. I understand if we're going to regulate it, this may not be the worst way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a well thought out system. But I have to sort of philosophically just be a quiet no. But if the will of the subcommittee is a 2-to-1, recommend all to pass, then that's fine. So be it.
I appreciate your sentiment, and tend to agree with that. It would impose a little bit of a cost on builders, I suppose. It's time.
It's a few $100s a year.
Yeah. Well, in the actual cash outlay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it worth the protections they would provide? Will it actually provide real protection?
You know, last year we had a bill that in the committee, Mr. Chairman, here, Mr. Chairman,
Apparently.
Senator Innes, that protected people from home maintenance contracts. That were
Yes.
perpetual. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I voted no on that one
I remember.
for exactly the same reason.
Yeah.
So,
But, you know, I'm not sure the registration would keep a bad actor from still engaging in the same behavior. And I think that's where I would come down on it. You know, I could still show up. Is the average person going to know that there's a registry and go check it out and make sure that you're on it? I sort of doubt it.
yeah, if someone's not going to take the time,
Right.
to check into the references of
Mhm.
someone who's knocking on the door asking for a check for $5,000 or $10,000,
Right.
why would they go to, call the office and get a check on the registration?
Yeah. They won't.
Unfortunately, we live in a world where there's always going to be scam artists.
Yeah.
And we all have to sort of be responsible for ourselves and making good decisions for ourselves and our families. And the government can help punish fraud, but you're not going to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people here that I think
Might want to speak.
might have opinions. I'd like to hear from Mr. Mayberry. Now, you and I, in full disclosure, we spoke about this bill, so I know your position. But you've heard Senator Reardon's comments and my comments, and Senator Innes. What do you want us to know?
Absolutely. The one that comes freshest to mind is the recent case that the Attorney General's office is prosecuting from Stratham, where the gentleman, over the course of, I think it's 5 or 6 years, took $2.5 million. These are smart, educated individuals that if they had made a complaint to the Builder Review Board and said, hey, Mayberry Construction has done this, it shows up. On the second complaint, the RPA would then go to the Builder Review Board and say, we've gotten 2 serious complaints about Mayberry Construction, and we should look into this. Could we have saved those consumers millions of dollars by highlighting them, having a conversation with them, but then referring it to the Attorney General's office? That board feels that this is a problem.
Mm.
You, Attorney General, should be looking into this. So is that worth it? Yes. But the calls that I get are much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
They're typically that $5,000 to $7,000. And yeah, it is, we can't legislate common sense. So yeah, everyone should be checking and trying and doing it. But with this through the RPA, there'd be about $100,000 spent in advertising, educating the consumers. Call. But there's also a fail-safe within that if a bad actor, we can't stop someone from taking money, driving back home, and disappearing.
Yeah.
That can happen. But those who are marginalized or those who have issues and they're trying to pyramid scheme this thing, go to a town, and the town says, hold on, there's a yellow marker on your file, on your registration. We're going to call and get some more information. Come back tomorrow. or if it's been red listed. So there are some fail safes in there, but we can't legislate common sense. It could happen, but in this case in Stratham, highly educated individuals, if they called, because right now there's no place to call. Better Business Bureau. But a lot of those folks felt that they were on island. They didn't think it was happening to anyone else other than them, and they were embarrassed.
Questions from the committee?
It's, in your view then, and that of the association, this isn't an onerous registration, pretty easy to do, no problems.
Say it one more time, Sam. It's hard to hear you.
This will be easy enough to do, right, for a builder. It's an easy registration process. I'm looking at what's laid out here. It doesn't seem that, as Senator Murphy said, that it's adding any significant costs for a builder. It's just something you do.
Correct, because if you have, we'll use me, Matt Mayberry, I can register as many companies under me as possible, so it's not prohibitive to any
Gotcha.
companies. So if I'll use Matt Blanc, one of our former presidents.
Mhm.
He owns 7 different companies, roofing, excavation, and so on.
Yeah.
He registers himself, he pays the fee, and then he just lists all the other companies.
Gotcha.
So when you do a search engine for Blanc Excavation, it goes back to him.
Okay.
We really kept this as low as possible. We think it'd be about $160 to $175 a year
Okay.
to register. So not prohibitive to get into that marketplace.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Senator Reardon?
Why DOL?
Again,
Why are you at the Department of Labor and not at OPLC?
OPLC is overwhelmed, short-staffed, but there's also, from my conversation with DOL, the workers' comp component that's in there, they spend a lot of time chasing workers' comp claims and have people filed, have employers filed. And so this goes hand in hand with the workers' comp and builders, because that's probably one of their highest claims are from builders, people falling off roofs. If they have the data under their possession, it's a whole lot faster to get to it than try to get it from OPLC or some other entity. We could also set up an enterprise fund. Should everything go forward, the one way we thought of funding this would be through an enterprise fund through the Department of Labor. And we would approach the BFA about a temporary working capital loan. I have not talked to DOL about an enterprise fund. I have not talked to BFA. This is, Matt, how are you going to make this work? This is where it came from.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayberry.
Thank you, Chairman.
Is there anyone else here, since I give Mr. Mayberry the opportunity, who would like to speak on this bill?
Yeah.
Please step up and give your name for the record.
Thank you. Josh Reap with Associated Builders and Contractors. Matt and I, for the record, we get along on a lot of issues. This is one spot where I think we're going to diverge on things. We represent primarily commercial, industrial, and multifamily contractors. But we looked at this bill and we found just structurally some challenges with it. We feel like it can also bring in commercial contractors. And we've also talking about trying to bring effectively what is a consumer protection issue into state regulation under the valid state licensing for contractors. And we have a vacancy rate of like 0.6% right now. You're trying to add on these regulations to an industry that's already finding challenges building, already finding challenges finding a workforce, dealing with cost increases all the time. Other states like Vermont, because as the EBC chapter of New Hampshire, Vermont, I represent both states. Vermont has their own licensure that they push through. It's very different, but conceptually it's kind of the same thing where they're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And they're also talking about licensure and formalized training and everything for that as well. And there's a reason why it's very expensive to build in Vermont. We don't need to replicate that here. I get it. Someone knocks on your door. They say, I can fix your roof for you. If there's a shingle there, give me your check now. I'll go run to the bank and I'll get your shingles and I'll show up tomorrow. That's never going to be addressed by this issue. Where there are issues where there's larger contractors that are taking money from one job to pay for another or pay for other issues, The AG even said we prosecuted this. I get it. We could have caught it sooner, they said, with the registration. My concern is you're always going to have bad actors. We've all heard of the SEC. We all know how highly regulated the finance market is. We've also heard of Bernie Madoff and robbing one client to pay another and support a lifestyle. So even in a highly regulated market that's reputably the most regulated in the world, you still have bad actors that show up in these sort of situations. So even a little bit closer to home, I know there's been some challenges. I think the FML financial scandal a few years ago, I think that was what it was, Kathy. And that was right here at home. That's a highly regulated market. My point being, you can regulate this market all you want. You're going to have still a lot of challenges and bad actors that are still going to show up. That for us is a concern. And also, I understand that there's been some amendments made to the bill that could possibly exempt out or carve out commercial. That's cool, but like a lot of my commercial contractors also do single family homes that are large, like estate plans and stuff. I got to be lumped into this. They're going to say, why am I going to do that? Okay, I'll do it as the general contractor. But my small roofer that I use that on the commercial projects ain't going to come over for one job on this. But I lost the economy and efficiency of scale because him and his 5 guys who could have come over with me won't do it because there's enough work going on in the commercial world where they won't do that. Increase that cost. There's delays involved with that, and I can't get to the next project. So you're actually having a domino effect on the industry. It's already strained from workforce challenges, overregulation, some other places as well. And putting in the Department of Labor, I think we heard from the DOL, the actual hearing. I got the vibe from them that they're like, we can't deal with this. We don't want this. OPL probably would be a better spot. I understand there's some concerns there. You're also talking about trying to implement regulation that's going to loop in not dozens or hundreds, but possibly a couple thousand new companies that are going to be like, what am I doing? Why am I on the list? Why do I need to register? And even as a personal homeowner, a friend of mine who runs a commercial construction company wants to do me a favor, helping out with renovating my garage, putting an attic in. It's a simple put plywood down, put some drop down stairs. For him, it'd be a 1-day job for 2 people on his schedule to fill in. Under this provision, he'd be violating the law and subject to criminal and civil penalties if he doesn't register. But he can't do me that favor of installing a pair of stairs in my garage. So you're even regulating it on a level where, like, I have a good relationship with my builder, I trust them, but under this registration scheme, I can't use him or her. So there's just all these pockmarked areas where we feel there's issues with it. If we want to talk about this, I just don't think this is ready for prime time this session. I would just really encourage you to vote no on this. Happy to answer the question.
Any questions?
No.
Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since I opened the door, is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this issue? Mr. Mayberry, I don't want to get into second bites of the apple. We'll go back and forth all day. But thank you anyway. What's the will of the committee? My position is pretty clear, but I'm certainly happy to listen to anyone else and take a motion.
I am not opposed to the concept. I think we've got testimony from Ken Merrifield, who didn't realize what he was buying into here. If you read the committee report, he wasn't prepared for that. I think Matt's done a heck of a fiscal note for us, but it's not a budget year.
Right.
So I would like to keep it alive, but I don't think it's ready for prime time. It's ready.
So we're going to keep it alive with what idea in mind? So we might amend it or?
Work out what it actually is, what department's going to house this.
Mhm.
I think if we were to pass this today, this would be a huge surprise to Ken Merrifield that
Yeah.
he needed to accommodate this.
Let's have an FN, so if we're going to do something with it legitimately, we've got a bit of a deadline.
Yeah, that's right. We got to get it to finance. Well,
Excuse me.
I understand Senator Reardon's sentiments on this, given the testimony.
Was that a motion?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
I mean,
It was a ramble.
I don't know where the votes are here, but, we could send it to finance and address the issues there. But,
I feel that this is the policy committee,
yeah, we should be
and
doing
we
that
should deal
here.
with policy here, and they deal with the numbers over there, and nothing but the numbers. So I'm not in a position to move anything. I wasn't there for the hearing. I would support an interim study motion, or I'll simply, if my colleagues vote, move all to pass, or recommend all to pass, then I would vote in opposition.
So I appreciate Senator Innes's point about if you're going to interim study it, what's the goal of
Right.
the interim study?
Yeah.
And it is global about where it lives in
Yes.
state government.
Yeah. I'll move interim study.
Second.
Recommend interim study. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. All right.
All right, we've dealt with all the legislation that was assigned to the subcommittee. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Nicely done, sir.
Thank you. I've got a 9:15 bill to fill down the hall. I will be here. See you immediately then. We'll see you for
I'll go find some files.
course. Good morning. Pretty good. Just a little frazzled, but okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the Committee on Commerce to order. And we have our first bill this morning being brought forward to us by the wonderful Senator Denise Ricciardi. And that is Senate Bill 526. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm so excited to be here for this. For the record, I'm Senator Denise Ricciardi, representing District 9, and I am here to ask you to support Senate Bill 526, establishing a New Hampshire and Greece Trade Council. Senate Bill 526 will be a major benefit in New Hampshire for both economic and cultural reasons. Establishing a council to facilitate New Hampshire's trade and investment with Greece creates a clear and organized way for New Hampshire and Greece to work together on business and commerce. It will enable our companies to export their goods and services to a nation with rich history and promising future. Not only will we benefit from our businesses getting greater access to Greek markets, but we will also benefit by attracting new investment and business partnerships into our state. That means more jobs and stronger businesses. Greece and New Hampshire are both experiencing strong economic momentum thanks to smart and disciplined approaches to economics. This is exactly the right time to capitalize on our complementary strengths. We also have cultural and historic reasons to support this legislation. New England in general, and New Hampshire especially, has an incredibly strong Greek community. New Hampshire has the single highest per capita concentration of Greek Americans in the entire country. This is a great chance to both honor and use it to the great benefit of our state. Greek culture has been enriching New Hampshire since the late 1800s, and this is just the next chapter in that history. Senate Bill 526 will bring together lawmakers, state agencies, businesses, the university system, and the broader public to work toward a closer relationship between New Hampshire and Greece. It will also do this with little or no cost to the taxpayer by allowing the council to raise private funds and accept grants. This legislation is based on prior legislation passed by both chambers when we did the Trade Council for Canada and for Ireland. I'm also bringing forward to the committee Amendment 2026061S. This amendment makes clear that the formal name for Greece is the Hellenic Republic. It also makes a one-word change to better reflect how Greece establishes trade councils. You will see the one-word change on line 13 of the amendment, where by is replaced with in. The line should read, to meet with one or more trade councils established in the Hellenic Republic. This is because trade councils in Greece are not established by the government, but are nonprofit membership-based businesses and associations. From the first democracies to the first in the nation primary, there is a deep concentration between Greece and New Hampshire. Our shared commitment to strong family-owned businesses and innovation makes this partnership a natural fit. I ask you to support Senate Bill 526 so we can build a stronger economy, honor our history, and boost New Hampshire's entrepreneurial appeal. And Mr. Chair, if I may, I wanted to add that last week I was in Washington, D.C., and I was meeting with the ambassador of Greece. I was meeting with Metlin, a big energy company. They are located in Greece, but I went with and introduced them to our congressman who's on energy. We did a lot of discussions, and I want you to know that they already, Metlin, is moving in the direction of helping with energy, starting in Pennsylvania and then Wyoming, and now they're having conversations in Arizona. I also met on energy and defense, and you may know that gallium is used in just about everything, from semiconductors to your phone chips, and 96% of it is made in China. But Metlin Energy in Greece is making gallium. And this could be a big opportunity for us to have gallium company here in New Hampshire. which would be amazing, bring a lot of jobs and economic growth. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Senator. Appreciate it very much.
you.
I'd like to call Dick Anagnost, please. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, hit the button so we get a bright red light. There we go.
Perfect.
All right.
I'm technologically handicapped. You guys all know that. My phone still flips. But my name is Dick Anagnost. I'm here today to speak in favor of this bill on behalf of the Greek American business community in New Hampshire. The Hellenic Republic of Greece and New Hampshire share a very parallel history with one another. Democracy originated in Greece. The first in the nation primary originated in New Hampshire. New Hampshire was pivotal in the fight for our freedom during the Revolution, with the first armed actions of the Revolution taking place in New Hampshire, and our own General John Stark coining the New Hampshire motto, "Live free or die." During the Greek War for Independence from Turkish, Athanasios Diakos, after being captured, coined Greece's official motto, which is freedom or death. As a pretty terrible aside, they roasted him for saying that on a spit. New Hampshire also is the birthplace of the first in the nation lottery, as we all know. 1963, Rockingham Park, race number 9. And for the last 15 years, a Greek company called Interlot has been providing lottery with the gaming system back office, Keno and lottery terminals, instant scratch and POS systems, supplies, and paper. Also, there's another Greek company called Talon LMS by Epignosis from Athens, which provides the lottery with its retail training portal and cloud-based learning system to simplify the online lottery system for retail. I'd also like to emphasize that New England has the highest concentration of Greek Americans settled from Greece per capita in the country, but New Hampshire ranks 1. Massachusetts ranks 2, and Maine ranks 10. So we have a lot of Greeks in our area. This bill would give us a vehicle by which we can enhance trade relationships and provide availability to leverage New Hampshire products. New Hampshire currently exports to Greece aerospace, computer, and electronic products. New Hampshire primarily imports metals and food products, aluminum harnesses, all kinds of things like that. New Hampshire and Greece do share a primary economic driver, and that's that both of us rely on tourism. So there's a big opportunity to exploit the tourism and how they approach it there and how we approach it here. Both New Hampshire and Greece value education. This vehicle will be open to discussions for potential collaborations in higher education. Southern New Hampshire University already has a presence in Greece. The New Hampshire Aeronautical Institute in Nashua is run by a Greek company, owned and run by a Greek company. Greece, a number of years ago, was on the steps of bankruptcy and was the goat of the European Union. Since then, it has emerged as one of the darling countries of the European Union, and a relationship with Greece would allow New Hampshire companies further direct access to the other European Union countries. In closing, our state already enjoys a close collaboration with Canada and Ireland through their trade councils. We're here today asking you for the opportunity to create the same relationship with the Hellenic Republic of Greece. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, appreciate your testimony. General Consulate Tigos, please. Good morning, sir, and welcome.
Good morning, sir. Honorable Chair, esteemed senators, good morning, Kalimera. My name is Simeon Tegos, and I'm the Consul General of Greece here in New England. It is a great privilege to have New Hampshire as part of our consular jurisdiction, and it is an even greater honor to be here with you this beautiful morning in support of the resolution by which a trade council between New Hampshire and Greece will be enacted. Greece, my country, a beacon of stability in turbulent times and places, a member of NATO and European Union, is a close ally to the United States, and our bilateral relations have never been better. Millions of Americans visited Greece last year, and our trade ties are getting stronger every day. New Hampshire has indeed a special place in our hearts. It's home of this very vibrant and important Greek community in many cities. And you know, it is true. You're very familiar, live free or die, freedom of death, was part of our historic DNA and a symbol that we share with New Hampshire so proudly. So, thanks to our own Senator Ricciardi, members of this creative, important community of business people, entrepreneurs, brought this initiative to you today. And we're really excited about the opportunity to support it and the opportunities that presents for both parties. We already, as consulate, mobilized the trade section of our embassy in DC, the American Hellenic Chamber of Commerce, that are very enthusiastic to promote further the idea and help organize trade missions to Greece and vice versa. So yes, it will be a vehicle to strengthen our cooperation. We are thankful to State Senator Ricciardi, to our business and community leaders for this initiative, and grateful to all of you. And we're also hopeful that you consider favorably this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, there are a number of other folks who signed up in support but did not indicate they wanted to speak necessarily. So I'll ask now, is there anyone who signed up or didn't sign up who would like to speak on this particular bill? All right, seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 526. And I'd love a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
All right, do we have a second? I'll
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's take up Senate Bill 526 if we could. Do we have a motion, Senator?
Make a motion to approve
Ought to
Senate Bill.
pass.
Ought to pass.
All right, and I'll second that. Discussion. Do we do, well,
It's
the
here.
amendment is here, so we'll need a motion on the amendment as well. All right, yep, so I'll move the amendment ought to pass, and we have a second from Senator Fenton. All right, discussion on either the amendment or the underlying bill. All
Just
right,
quick comment.
yes, sir.
So I happen to chair the New Hampshire Canadian Trade Council, and I've seen the benefits of such a council. Senator Reardon joins me on that council, as does my office mate, Senator Pearl. Lots of tremendous benefits with that. I was just meeting today with our Secretary of State, so I fully support this bill.
Great, okay. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the motion of ought to pass on the amendment to 526, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and,
I'll take it out.
yeah, I knew you would. Yes, we are. We have a motion of ought to pass on the bill as amended with a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and we will not put this on consent, but we will ask Senator Ricciardi to please bring this out at our next session day. So,
So, and that will be next Thursday?
should be next Thursday. Yes.
Next Thursday.
Yes, okay. So we're going to take a 5-minute recess and then we'll reconvene probably in executive session. So we are in recess. Yes.
doing?
You are, your hand,
655.
yes,
Okay.
and I'm the prime. Okay, I'm going to call the Commerce Committee out of recess and hand the gavel to my very able vice chair. And I'll introduce the next bill.
Okay, we are going to open up the hearing on Senate Bill 655 and welcome our chair, Senator Innes.
All right, good morning, Madam Vice Chair and other member of the committee. I'm Dan Innes from Bradford, New Hampshire, representing District 7, and I'm here to introduce Senate Bill 655. Professional employer organizations, also known as PEOs, help small and mid-sized businesses manage some of the most complex and costly parts of running a business today. Human resources, payroll, benefits administration, and regulatory compliance. And by pulling employees together and employers together, PEOs allow small businesses to offer competitive benefits that would otherwise be out of reach, including health insurance, retirement plans, and workers' comp coverage. By taking this administrative burden off of small employers, the employers can then focus on growing their business, hiring workers, and staying competitive in a really tight labor market. I want to be clear. Senate Bill 655 does not reduce, weaken, or avoid workers' compensation in any way. I'll say that again. This bill does not reduce, weaken, or avoid workers' compensation coverage. Coverage remains mandatory, and all employees must continue to be covered at all times. What this bill does is technical and narrow. Under current law, the PEO is required to hold the workers' compensation policy in every case. New Hampshire is one of only a few states with that restriction. Senate Bill 655 provides some flexibility by permitting either the PEO or the client business to secure and maintain coverage, depending on what works best for that employer. In states where this flexibility exists, PEOs are still the primary source of coverage. But there are situations, particularly for multi-state employers or businesses with very specialized risk profiles, where a client-held policy can lower costs or make participation in a PEO possible at all. Current law can unintentionally prevent New Hampshire businesses from accessing these HR services. What this bill does not do is make coverage optional, reduce the number of people covered, or weaken enforcement. It simply removes a barrier that puts New Hampshire out of step with national practice. Senate Bill 655 would modernize our employee leasing statute, support small businesses, and preserve full worker protections. Thank you again for taking time to hear my testimony. I'm happy to answer any basic questions you might have, and there's some folks behind me who I know will be coming forward to testify as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your
Thank you.
testimony. The chair will now call Danielle from NHDOL. I'll turn it to you.
Good morning. My name is Danielle Albert. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of the New Hampshire Department of Labor, and I'm here today with Wesley Gardner, who is the Director of the Department's Workers' Compensation Division. Thank you very much for having us and for taking our testimony. The department has reviewed the language proposed in Senate Bill 655. We are neutral on the bill, and we believe we do understand the intent of the bill as written, specifically to be amending the leasing statute at RSA 277B to add or to authorize and allow for client companies who are in a PEO contractual relationship to have the option of securing workers' compensation insurance coverage to cover leased employees if that is part of the PEO contract. So just for a little bit of background relative to PEOs, I do want to be clear there oftentimes is confusion about what is a PEO, or also sometimes called a leasing company. These are very specific relationships that are entered into under statute, where the PEO is engaging in essence, a co-employment relationship with the client company. And the statute itself, under its current language, sets forth the requirements that each co-employer within this relationship is required to abide by. So under current construct of statute, the PEO itself is responsible for certain employer obligations, and then the client company who they have engaged with is responsible for a different host of employer relationships. In order to operate as a PEO within the state, the PEO has to be licensed through the Department of Labor. So we do understand the changes that are being proposed here. We would note that relative to the proposed language, there is some conflict with existing unamended language within 277B itself. One such area is at 277B5 itself. There's some amended or newly added language relative to allowing the employee leasing company, if they are the ones who are contractually obligated now to provide workers' comp coverage, to maintain that coverage, or if the employer is or the client company is designated to do that, then it's the client company's responsibility. Within that same paragraph, there is a provision that states no unlicensed leasing company shall be provided workers' compensation insurance coverage. So that would conflict with the proposed change. So there are a couple of other areas where there are conflict, and we're more than happy to work with the sponsor on where those areas exist if there is a desire to pass this language forward. But we would recommend clearing those conflicts so that it's clear both for the department and its regulatory capacity in overseeing the newly mandated requirements, but also for the participants so that they understand what's required from them. Another point that we would note is that in terms of regulating these newly stated requirements, if the client company, the employer company who's working with the PEO, elects to secure the workers' compensation insurance coverage itself, the department does have some concern that when that insurance policy is reported to the department, because we do receive proof of coverage reports for all employers, including PEOs who have leased employees, so that we are aware that the mandatory coverage requirement has been fulfilled. If the client company obtains a regular non-PEO policy, that's how it would be reported to the department, which could impact our ability to link or tie together client companies who are being served or in this type of contractual relationship with a PEO. Currently, when those policies are reported under the current construct or the current iteration of statute, those policies are coming through assigned to the PEO itself, and they come through as PEO-specific policies. So again, some of the language clarification, clearing up some of the conflict with the newly proposed language may streamline or assist with that, but it is something that we wanted to note as a potential concern. And then our final recommendation would be, as it relates to injured workers, we would recommend some thought or potential language relative to requiring client companies, if they elect through their PEO contract to secure this coverage, to be mandated or required to advise their employees who is the employer of record for the purposes of workers' compensation. Currently, because it's the PEO and the PEO is also handling payroll and whatnot, it's more clear, I think, for injured workers where there is an option with a contract between the client company, employer, and the PEO. If an employee is not aware of who has delineated that responsibility, they may have difficulty in pursuing workers' compensation claims and naming the appropriate employer if they're coming forward with some sort of workers' compensation dispute. We are more than happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, are there any questions for the department? All right, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Heather from NHAJ. Heather, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite read your last name there. Okay, I'm glad I didn't try. So you could turn on your microphone, please. If you could turn on your microphone, please, and introduce yourself. No, not yet. There it is.
Oh, red is on. Okay.
Yeah, red is
Sorry
on
about that.
oddly, right? Yeah.
So good morning. My name is Heather Menezes. I'm an attorney at Shaheen and Gordon. I do represent injured workers in workers' comp cases. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to testify today. I understand the Senate Bill 655 provides, leasing companies only have to provide proof of workers' compensation insurance if it's their contractual duty to do so. The concern would be, if the coverage of that employee, if there is an appropriate coverage by the client company and what happens in that circumstance. And I think some of the language maybe is problematic as it is now, as, Deputy Commissioner Albert just stated, but that is the stated concern. There might be a fix for it, but, the intent of workers' compensation is to make coverage easy and quicker for an injured employee. And if either they don't know who they have to, make a claim against, or for whatever reason, the client company doesn't secure the appropriate coverage, or if it's an out-of-state employer that the state has no control over, that makes it wildly difficult for an injured employee to have to then get that coverage. So that's the concern with this bill. They know their employee is the leasing company. That leasing company then gets coverage. It's simple, like workers' comp is designed to be, although we all know it's not exactly simple, but relatively speaking. So that would be the concern.
All right. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on Senate Bill 655? Gentlemen, please. Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Chair, Senators, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak. My name is Justin Worrell, and I am the Managing Director for Governmental and Regulatory Affairs at a company called Insperity. Insperity was founded in 1986 in Kingwood, Texas. We are a national company. We are publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Nationally, we serve over 300,000 worksite employees, and specific to New Hampshire, we have just over 1,200 worksite employees, and we've been conducting business here since 1997. Employee leasing companies like Insperity are also known as PEOs, or professional employee organizations, and Insperity is licensed in New Hampshire under RSA 277-B. If you're not familiar with it, it's a little bit of a funky model, a little different. So PEOs, we offer a unique business model. We enter into a long-term contractual relationship where we allocate employer responsibilities between the two parties, and this is codified under state laws as co-employment and also in just about every other state in the nation. So Insperity provides comprehensive HR solutions to small and mid-sized businesses across three main pillars. So HR, we help with compliance assistance with the myriad state and federal laws in that capacity. The second would be with regard to payroll. So the paycheck comes from Insperity. Insperity is the W-2 employer to all of those worksite employees that I mentioned a minute ago. And we are responsible for submitting payroll-related taxes to the IRS under our EIN. And then the third one would be benefits administration. Because we have this employer nexus, we are able to provide small businesses with a world-class Fortune 500 style workplace experience for our clients and their employees. And then on the client side, their main responsibility is to run their day-to-day operation. And so we try to take off those administrative burdens from our clients to allow them to focus on their core business and grow. Now, specifically to Senate Bill 655, it's true most states allow either the client or the PEO to purchase and maintain the coverage. New Hampshire happens to be one of fewer than 5 states that does not allow this. And so this bill, we're looking to introduce some flexibility in this regard. I do want to be clear that our intent is certainly not to make coverage optional at all. That is not our intention whatsoever. But we do want to allow clients and PEOs to choose an arrangement that best fits their needs. And you may ask why, Justin. There's a couple reasons. One simple reason is that a client may already have coverage, and from a carrier that maybe they've known for a very long time, and that's what they prefer to what the PEO is offering. The client may receive cost savings from their current coverage provider. A more complex example is that requiring different coverage for a single New Hampshire employee can be a barrier, especially for multi-state employers, which can discourage them from even considering the PEO solution. And we've also seen, and this is not an outcome that Insperity would ever want to see, an outcome we would never want to see, but we have had clients consider terminating their New Hampshire employees due to this specific barrier. And I do want to just mention some of the concerns with the notification requirements. More than happy to provide that and incorporate those kinds of provisions into this bill. So I just want to publicly state that we are certainly willing to work with folks, clean up some of the conflicts, and also work on some of these notification requirements so people know where they're getting their coverage from. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end my comments. I also submitted a letter of support from our National Trade Association, which is the National Association for Professional Employer Organizations, or NAPIO. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, are there any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
your
you.
testimony. All right, is there anyone else who maybe didn't sign up or perhaps did, but didn't indicate they wanted to speak, who would like to speak on Senate Bill 655? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on 655 and in just a moment, open up House Bill 297. It's, oh, do we have the prime?
Is it time to open it? Yeah. We're going to open the hearing on House Bill 297, and Senator Innes is going to introduce the bill for the sponsor.
All right. Good morning again, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of you. The prime sponsor of House Bill 297 is not here. However, I'm going to read the remarks that were read when this bill was introduced to the House committee. And then the insurance department will be testifying after me. So I'm Dan Innes from Bradford, New Hampshire, representing District 7, and I'm here introducing House Bill 297 at the request of the insurance department. This bill seeks to strengthen New Hampshire's program for collecting de-identified health insurance claims data from all payers. New Hampshire was one of the first states to establish an all-payer claims database, known in other states as APCD, but known in New Hampshire as the CHIS, or Comprehensive Healthcare Information System. The CHIS has been essential to the state's efforts to make healthcare costs and spending more transparent and to support evidence-based policymaking. Under the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, states are limited in their authority to collect claims data from employer plans that are self-funded. In order to address this limitation, the New Hampshire legislature created an opt-in program in RSA 420-G:11, Section V5, whereby self-funded employers can opt into providing their de-identified claims data to the CHIS. To strengthen the opt-in program, this bill provides that any self-funded employer that opts into the CHIS will have access to their own claims data. Self-funded employers often use this data to improve their employee health benefit plans, but sometimes run into the problem that their claims administrator treats the claims data as proprietary and not available to the self-funded employer. Under this bill, by opting into the CHIS, a self-funded employer would no longer have this problem. The insurance department is here to explain in more detail what the bill does and answer any questions of the committee, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We'll now call Jennifer Smith from the Insurance Department and Jason. Thank you. Good morning. Nice to see you.
Morning. Good morning, Senator. I'm Jennifer Smith. I'm the Legislative Director for the New Hampshire Insurance Department, and I'm joined by Jason Azis, who is the Director of our Data Analytics Unit with the department. So this is a request of the department, and it specifically touches Dr. Azis's department and what he does with the CHIS database, the all payer claims database for the state. So I'm going to let Jason explain a little bit more what the bill does, and then we're both here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Good morning. Nice to see your beautiful smiles today. It's really simple and straightforward, and I think the introduction characterized this pretty accurately. So, about 54% of the commercial insurance market is self-funded, which is the majority, and more and more plans each year become self-funded, and because of that, they're preempted from providing lots of information, including claims data, to the insurance department. Despite that, we still have about 30% of the New Hampshire CHIS is the self-insured plans, mostly the state employees in the university system of New Hampshire's. And recently, many of the large employer group hospitals that have undergone mergers now are required by the Attorney General's settlement orders to submit to the CHIS. But despite that, there's still a massive gap. And recently, I think last year, we became aware that many of these self-insured plans don't get their claims data. And I think it was characterized that the plans sometimes refer to that as proprietary information. So that was one of the ideas behind this bill, was to motivate large employers to request those claims data from the insurance department, and requiring that these plans have the large employers fill out the opt-in form. And so we're looking to get more compliance on that, in turn, better representativeness of the self-insured market in the claims data. And that can help with our New Hampshire Health Costs website and price transparency in healthcare, which is much needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further?
The only thing I would add is, I think Dr. Azis surmised it perfectly. As in the House, there were a few concerns raised in terms of when, as Dr. Azis alluded to, a lot of these employers don't get their claims data. And there was some concern that with potentially them getting it, getting the direct information, because it might then show if they have an employee who has much higher utilization of their healthcare benefits than, say, some other employees. And they wouldn't want that employee to be singled out. So they wanted to ensure that there was greater privacy protection built into the bill as well. So what we have done to kind of protect that data, it did exist in our rules. So we took basically what was in our existing rules and applied it to the statute. So when they get this data back, it's going to be de-identified and aggregated, so that they will not be able to single out those employees who might have higher utilization. But then that information will be available to the employer. It's going to help them better determine if they need to make any adjustments to their plans that they're offering to their employees as well. So that's the only thing I would add.
That was helpful. All right. Question from Senator Fett.
Thank you, and thank you for taking my question. So as a self-funded employer, would I be able to benchmark my plan against state or regional averages?
Yeah, with regards to aggregate data, but not condition-specific
Or is it
metrics.
strictly limited to pack follow-up?
Yeah, of
Is it
course.
strictly limited to my own claims?
The aggregated data are total incurred claims, and so that's the total expenditures for all employees. You wouldn't be able to find out what Ms. Smith just referred to, is if you have a high chronic disease burden, you know, who's incurring those claims. It's a tension between protection of individual medical information confidentiality and healthcare transparency.
So we would have the data, but we wouldn't be able to identify specific individuals. Right.
Not which specific individuals are incurring high-cost claimants in the plan.
Okay. Do you follow up?
No.
Employers might know that on their own. I mean, just think as an employer, if you know you have a worker or two that, say, God forbid, is out ill due to cancer, you know their treatments are going to be quite
expensive and extensive.
Yep.
So most employers can kind of parcel that together. But you might have an employee that has underlying medical issues that don't impact their job performance at all, but they need quite a lot of medical care to maintain that level of functioning. You would not really be able to identify that individual out because the information is going to come back aggregated and not call them out specifically, but it will let you know what the utilization is across the board for all of your employees, so that if you, from a cost perspective, or if you want to be more overly generous with your employees, you want to go change your plan design either way, up or down, you can see that information as to what's driving the costs.
Senator Fenton.
So I have one more question. If I opt into this, are TPAs or carriers going to be able to charge me for access to this information?
So that's probably the economic incentive that large employers would have to participate in the opt-in, is that they may not have to pay the marginal cost that a TPA would charge them. Presumably, it's incorporated in their contract that if you want your claims data, something they see as their property, proprietary, then they'll add a marginal cost to the contract for that. This preempts that process in that they can get the claims data from the insurance department, albeit aggregated. So it's not known what proportion of large self-funded employers do not get their claims data currently, but we became aware that nationwide, a non-trivial proportion of self-funded ERISA plans don't get their claims data, that there's a cottage industry has been created for them to have to pay for it from the TPA. This aims to maybe bridge the gap between those two.
Absolutely.
All right. What are you benchmarking as what you call a large employer?
Over 100.
Over 100
Yeah.
personnel.
Yeah, and there is a non-trivial proportion of small employers in the state that are also self-funded. So, but the real impact to the citizenry, as far as employers who get their insurance through, employees who get their insurance through their employer, it's mostly large groups. So large hospitals, large employers, the state of New Hampshire, over 500 individuals.
Any further follow-ups, Senator?
No, thank you for taking my question.
All right, very good. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak on House Bill 297? All right, seeing none, we will close the hearing on House Bill 297. In just a moment, we will open on House Bill 396. It's up my paper. But you're involved in this.
self-insured.
You know, Market Basket self-insures too, and they're big.
So is UNH.
Just accumulate the number of hospitals. I wonder if the insurance rate 50%.
I cover 70% of my employees' premium.
Donovan, have you ever thought about talking to Nick Bayless? He has a very good program that saves employers.
Oh, wait a minute. Good morning for the third time. Dan Innes from Bradford, New Hampshire, representing District 7. And I'm going to attempt to introduce House Bill 396. And this is an interesting bill that is designed to open up markets for small farmers in our state. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But let me just say, current rules around processing of beef, swine, goats, and sheep require a USDA inspected facility to process the animals if they're going to be sold at retail. Interestingly, if you're working with bison or red-tailed deer or elk, that doesn't apply. So it's very specific and, quite frankly, a little bit discriminatory. So what this bill does is say that if beef cows, swine, goats, and sheep are going to be sold within the state of New Hampshire, that the USDA rules would not apply. And you wouldn't have to send your animal, in many cases, hours away to a USDA facility to sell at the Concord Co-op or a local market or even at a farmer's market. So essentially, it opens up the market to small farmers as it's presently open for bison, red-tailed deer, and elk, right? Same standard would be applied to beef cows, swine, sheep, and goats. So it makes a lot of sense from a logical point of view. And I think it's something we ought to support. And being a small farmer and now experiencing the difficulties getting to market, I really appreciate what this bill is trying to do. And let me give you a quick example. So we're small. We'll do maybe 10 animals a year, if that. But to do that, we have to send them hours away to a USDA facility where they're going to be undergoing stress for the first time in their lives, in our case. Cortisol's flowing, the quality of the meat will degrade. Sometimes these facilities will leave the animals in a trailer for days. I don't want to do that. It's not fair to the animals, and it's not good for the quality of the product. The Pacific Legal Foundation has submitted some testimony, and I'm going to lift from this just a little bit to sort of give you a different perspective from what I've just described. And what they write is this: federal law has imposed an unnecessary and often insurmountable barrier on small livestock producers. Under the Federal Meat Inspection Act, farmers in states without their own inspection programs, like New Hampshire, may sell meat only if it's processed at one of the aforementioned USDA facilities, even when the livestock is raised, processed, and sold entirely within the state. In New Hampshire, where USDA facilities are scarce and costly, it's a near total barrier to market entry. It can take 2 years to get an appointment to process an animal. You have to book it before the animal's even born in some cases. So we wait months or years for processing slots, incur transportation expenses that really erase our profit margins, or we just abandon production altogether, and that's happened all over our state. Farms are disappearing still, in spite of our efforts to protect them. So this is it's an artificial bottleneck. It's created not by consumer demand or safety concerns, but by bureaucracy and an overreach, in my view, and the sponsor's view, of the federal government. So this is a targeted and thoughtful fix. It allows meat processed and sold exclusively within New Hampshire to be inspected and regulated under state authority rather than through the federal system. And if you step back, you can buy raw milk or raw milk yogurt in the state of New Hampshire, right? That is an intrastate situation just like this one. It's the same concept. We're simply trying to open markets for new customers, for small farms, and to really make it easier to do business in New Hampshire. And that's the New Hampshire way, live free or die. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? I have a couple.
Yes?
Could you tell me why there's a discrepancy between the animals with regard to this?
Oh my. I can speculate if the committee is okay with that.
Yeah, speculate.
I think this is designed simply to produce the large meat processors. There are only 4 really in the country. And if you look at it, say, all right, well, why are they so concerned about these small farms? Why do they really care? Because it's not that big a deal, right? Well, if you look at the beer market, you can kind of get some idea why they're a little concerned. Budweiser, the other large producers, weren't that concerned with the small breweries initially, but then they started to take away some of their market share. And I think a lot of these folks are seeing this the same way. To me, it makes perfect sense to do this, to open up markets, to help small farms. And it's a farm to table thing. It's local production. You know where your meat is coming from. And I can assure you, we are not going to screw this up. We're not, because if someone gets sick from my product with my farm's name on it, I'm done. I'm done. We are not going to let that happen. And I will tell you, I've seen these custom meat houses. That's what we use for our animals. They are cleaner than any USDA facility. I can virtually guarantee that. They process relatively few animals. It's totally cleaned every time it's done, and they start fresh every time. At a USDA facility, you have hundreds of animals going through. Cross-contamination is entirely possible. That's not going to happen with these small places. I actually think it's better for the consumer.
So at the end of the day, if when we pass this bill, it's just giving people a choice. They know that it didn't go and get inspected. If that bothers the person, then they don't have to buy the.
That's right. It's all about consumer choice. Many people choose not to buy raw milk. We happen to buy it. I think it's amazing stuff. But other people choose not to, and that's perfectly fine. We're just trying to expand choice, help our small farms, help our state, and get better products to consumers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair will now call Kim Fortune. Oh, you're not speaking? Okay, there's a check by speaking, but if you don't want to speak, that's fine. The next person that checked it is Abby Rockefeller. I think they checked speaking, didn't mean to.
They made good.
You can take over then.
Okay, I'll take it.
When we've gone down to.
All right, thank you. Please join us.
Okay, sorry. Initially, I wasn't going to speak, but that's okay. I'm Kim Fortune, from Webster, New Hampshire, longtime farmer. That's all I know. It's a lot of almost all I've done with my life. Full-time farmer. We have a varied farm of many different animals, including a small beef herd, some dairy cows, some swine, horses, chickens, pigs. We're very, very self-sustainable. The reason that we would like to see this go through is it would be such an opportunity for our farm to be able to be that much more sustainable. It would give us an opportunity to what we have experienced and what we've had to do as a very small farmer throughout all of our past has been literally, we began trucking way up to, I say way up, but it is way up because it does take time out of your day and it is a planning thing and you do have to have an appointment and it is a big slot of time in scheduling to beginning at North Haverhill to PT Farms because they were the only USDA certified facility. What some people do and don't understand about USDA facility, you would think that that would be one stamp of, okay, this particular cow comes with one stamp of USDA and USDA is fine. In saying that, the exorbitant price that really is reflected into what I have to do beyond the safety part is each and every package of 1 pound beef, ground beef, or steak, or flank roast that is off of that carcass is adding a price to it each and every stamp. It's 30 cents USDA charges, or that particular facility was 30 cents per label per package added onto my cost just as a result of having it processed in a USDA facility, recognizing that USDA, when you have a USDA facility, there are so many more stipulations and regulations that you have to have in order to keep a USDA certified employee on site. But beyond that, we had done that for years and years and years, being in compliance. Absolutely. And it became, your margin is very, very thin, particularly, it began to be reflected in 2007 when the grain prices started to go up just that much more. Although we are grass-fed, but it reflected all the way around to everyone. Then time went by, and probably the biggest crisis, right, we had either gone for a processing facility to North Haverhill, or we ended up going outside of the state to Vermont in order to get a USDA access to a USDA facility, in order to literally sell to my neighbor next door. My neighbor knows exactly my farm practices, knows exactly how everything is done every single day, but with things as they are right now, I can't even sell to my neighbor who knows our whole facility. In saying that, the next big crisis came when 2 USDA facilities within a year or so literally went up in flames. And they went up in flames at a time when it was in the fall. And everyone was booked in at those facilities in our neighborhood. And in saying that, I mean, seriously, people started calling us and said, what are we going to do? We have nowhere to process our pig that we're going to eat for our ham, bacon, sausage, whatever is going to sustain us through the winter. We have no place to send our cow right now that we can even get it personally processed for their own consumption. And they said, what do we do? Well, granted, we were hindered, but what we did is we, for our neighbors, put together a cutting room over the weekend, literally. So we've had to literally volunteer and give, obviously it's who we are, but we volunteer our place out because we can't, the way regulations are, we can't do anything at this point in time. This would help us in so many ways to be able to, to sustain my neighborhood, my own community, And, a lot of people don't know where Webster is but Webster is actually the agricultural district of Concord. And yet here, I can't even kind of farm in my own backyard. But anyway,
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
That's just kind of our story.
Appreciate you being here. I'm happy
Yes.
to be your senator.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And actually, my husband grew up at Battles.
Oh, really?
yes.
Okay. That's
Thank
the
you.
farm we have. So, all right, now Trails End. All right, the department is here. Colleen Smith, Erica Davis, would you like to come up and join us for a minute? The Department of Health and Human Services. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Thank you, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Colleen Smith, and I'm the Bureau Chief of the Bureau of Public Health Protection. And today I'm joined by Erica Davis. She's the administrator of the Food Protection Section, and we're representing the Department of Health and Human Services Division of Public Health. The department does not have a position on this bill. However, we would like to offer to be a resource to the committee and bring forth a few concerns that we do have regarding the bill. As mentioned before, the proposed bill conflicts with the Federal Meat Inspection Act. And while there is a provision of this bill that does require the farmer to acknowledge that they are in violation of federal law, we also wanted to point out that that doesn't translate. There's no disclosure necessary for retail stores and restaurants who also could be impacted should they have this meat offered for sale, and it could be subject to seizure by the federal government because it's in violation of that act. So we wanted to point that out, that restaurants and retail stores could also be impacted by this bill. While the bill is very thorough in addressing safe conditions and sanitary conditions for slaughter. There's no procedure for verifying compliance to this. And the department's only responsibility for addressing any concerns at the farm level would be in the event of a foodborne outbreak or complaint. And while the current law allows for bison, red deer, and elk to be slaughtered without inspection and offered to retail stores and restaurants, there are very few producers that actually take advantage of this. And certainly by expanding to other types of animals, there will be more department resources needed to not only educate what's required for labeling and at the farm level and at the retail level, but also verifying compliance. And that is these are our thoughts. So if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those.
Okay, Senator Murphy.
Thank you. The bill does treat meat differently than meat products. And could you just speak to why that would be? And I'm sorry, Senator Sharday may have asked that question earlier, but I didn't quite understand the answer.
So it's my understanding is that with the current law for bison, elk, and red deer is that there's a provision that allows for ground products of these, and that with the additional animals that are added, that wouldn't be allowed. So the meat products only applies to the current species that are allowed. So the red deer, elk, and bison.
Thank you.
Senator Ricciardi.
Thank you for taking my question. So I see your point on this disclosure. So I think, if I were a restaurant owner and I just would want that disclosure, then I can choose if I want the meat USDA inspected or from the local farmer. I do see value in maybe adding something of that nature.
Yes, we just wanted to definitely point out that this impact in violation of the federal act is beyond just the farm level, is that if it's sold at retail, that retail stores or restaurants could also be impacted by agreeing to take meat that's uninspected.
Thank you.
Hey, do you have a question? Yes, Senator, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with the existing animals that can be slaughtered under the statute here, there is a series of requirements, not only a clean facility, but that testing has to be done at certain, and refrigeration has to be done at certain point. Who is the authority that makes sure that's happening now? Is that you all?
So though that falls under the obligation of the Department of Agriculture, and we have very limited experience in having to enforce this. I do know that there was one instance where they did have in the current regulation that there wasn't the protocols being followed with the veterinarian examination. As I said, it is very much relying on the farmer to follow the letter of the law. There isn't a lot of regulatory oversight that's happening.
Thank you.
Real quick question. Is there any reason to believe that beef cows would be more susceptible to contamination at a custom meat house than a bison?
That's outside of my expertise. There's definitely a size difference in the animal,
yes.
and certainly I think there, if you look in the marketplace, you will find more instances of beef for sale than bison meat, but that's outside of my purview.
There's a lot more of it sold, right? Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you both. Appreciate you being here. Yes, I see the prime sponsor has arrived. Representative, how are you? I did my best to introduce it. So, U.S. Police, join us.
Thank you, Senator Innes and honorable members of the committee. I apologize for being late, but I had 4 of the amendments to introduce over in my committee of the NA. So this bill is about food sustainability for our New Hampshire citizens. And it's not only about food sustainability, it's about affordability, and it's about giving New Hampshire citizens the best quality food that they can have access to. When we go to the grocery store, we're supposedly assured that what we're buying is okay and it's great to eat because it has a USDA stamp on it. Well, I can tell you that that's not necessarily true. The USDA, through the FSIS, which is the Food Safety Information Inspection Services, has several ongoing recalls that are either high risk or medium risk. And what that means, it is a health hazard situation where there is a reasonable probability that the use of the product will cause serious adverse health consequences or death. Let me repeat that. Serious adverse health consequences or death. And these products have all been USDA approved. I know for a fact that in New Hampshire, there was a USDA facility that we had to call the federal USDA to investigate them. Stamped USDA, supposedly processed USDA. The meat was given to the farmer that brought in the beef. Freezer burned. They returned that meat. Instead of disposing of it, they slapped another farm's label on top of that meat. We also know that at the same facility that is USDA inspected and has a USDA person on site, that the freezers were so packed that there was not enough airflow, that white mold on the meat was more than what was than it should be. Not sure if everyone knows, but white mold is okay. But what happens is the more white mold on it, you lose that part of your beef or whatever you have hanging in that freezer. So farmers with reasonable expectations of bringing something to a USDA facility with a chance of getting back X amount of their hanging weight were not. And not only that, they were not only assured that they were getting back their beef or their pork. I'll just give you a few examples of some of the recalls. 2.3 million pounds of ready-to-eat Korean barbecue pork jerky on October 24th. And these are only the high or medium risk ones. 4.9 million pounds of frozen chicken products. Let me repeat that, 4.9 million pounds. Some people said that they actually go in and they look at these recalls. But if you have something in your freezer or you expect reasonableness that it's good to eat, you have no idea, and they have no way of tracking. But if a small farmer, because this bill is about limiting the size of things, sells to a consumer or to a restaurant, they know where their food went. It's easily tracked. We have done this with rabbit and poultry. We have done this with raw milk, and we have done it with the non-amenable species. The only people that aren't allowed to process on farm are people that raise amenable species because the USDA says no. But actually, processing on farm produces a better product. The animal is not as stressed. It's a more tender meat that you get because there isn't the stress. And some even argue that it might be more large recall. It was 2,900 pounds of raw ground beef products. It only went to 6 states, but it was contaminated with E. coli. How are you going to find 2,900 pounds of raw hamburg in 6 states with E. coli when it goes into a distribution system? Unless people are actually looking for it. But if the farmer is selling it, they know exactly where that food went. And that is the difference. And we need to do something here in New Hampshire. Other states are watching this. Other states want this. Then our November hearing got over 2.5 million views on this topic. I've had a legal foundation call me to say that they would defend any farmer in the state of New Hampshire if this bill passes. This is so important, and we're being hamstrung by the large corporations that don't want us to bite into their apple. But it's more than that. The New Hampshire citizens deserve better from us, and they deserve sustainable food source, healthy food, and they know where how their farmer is raising that food, and we deserve that for our citizens. I'd entertain any questions.
Question, Senator Murphy.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing the bill forward. I've asked a question earlier about meat versus meat food products, and I want to understand the distinction. Clearly, you drafted the bill for a reason. And then the second part of this question related, is ground beef meat or meat food product?
Thank you for the question, Senator Murphy. We decided that this bill needed to be for cuts of meat, because when you start grounding meat, there's a chance for contamination. And we want to deliver a safe product, and that's why we left it at the cuts of meat.
Follow up?
Follow up.
Would ground bison or elk be safer than ground beef?
No, but I understand that that's done, but this bill was drafted trying to appease to the masses, and with the chance of getting it through and signed.
All right. Other questions? Senator Reardon, please.
One point, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for taking, not really a question of substance, but on page 1 of your bill, at line 16, it cites, I'm in my quest before you arrived to find out who is the New Hampshire entity that's looking at these things. I'm looking at the sites here, and on line 16, RSA 427-16-12 has got to be a mistake. That actually was repealed back in 2017. Do you know what the correct site is there?
That is correct, in that an amendment probably needs to be brought forth to correct that.
Okay. Do you know off the top of your head what I should be looking at?
I do not know. That was brought to my attention, but it left the House before we corrected that.
Great, thank you. I'll wait
Representative,
for that.
if you could get that to us, we can do an amendment to correct that.
Thank you, Senator Innes. I'm not sure if you also knew about the other one where we should include dairy cows and beef cows.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Representative. Appreciate it. All right. So we have a number of people signed up, and I don't know if they all want to speak, but I'm going to call each name that is on the list if it was indicated they'd like to speak. So we have Sherry Denard. Would you like to speak? All right. And I trust Kenwood is with you. Yes, okay. Is he speaking or no? Okay, all right.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, microphone, if you could. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Good morning, everybody. My name is Cherie Denard. I have been an on-farm butcher, slaughter person for over 26 years. And I actually got interested in doing it because I was highly susceptible to foodborne illnesses in meat that I purchased from the store. And so I started raising my own meat, and I interfaced with a local butcher whose name was Victor Hughes, who came to a lot of farms in his day and slaughtered our animals for us. And I can tell you, in the 26 years I've been doing this, nobody has ever gotten sick, number one. Number two, it offered the farmers flexibility in terms of how they wanted to offer the meat to people, which, you know, we did this anyway, even when it wasn't legal. But so if a farmer, if a family wanted a half a pig, they could get a half a pig and they could cut it up as was convenient for their family versus it all being in these prepackaged containers that they get back from the USDA. I think that on the farm slaughters are safer because there isn't this facility that is cranking out hundreds of animals every day. The E. coli that's getting people sick is a mutated strain of E. coli. It's not naturally formed. It mutated in these large slaughterhouses. So it's infinitely safer for meat to be processed on the farm. It offers more flexibility. I think it will open the market. but I know that I always had people that wanted to get meat from me for these similar reasons. They didn't trust the meat at the grocery store. They felt the meat from a farm was more humane, safer, and of course, the farmers can offer more flexibility in terms of pricing if they don't have the USDA and the costs associated with bringing an animal to a USDA facility in the equation.
Questions? All right, seeing none, nice to see you again.
Great, thank you.
both for being here. Appreciate it very much. All right, Brooke DeLorme. Would you like to speak, or would you like to speak, Brooke? Yes, please join us. We'll give him to the aide over here. Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Chair Innes, Vice Chair Ricciardi, and distinguished members of the Commerce Committee. My name is Brooke DeLorme. I'm a resident of Loudoun, and I'm here in support of the bill. I believe it's a great opportunity to make healthy meat more affordable, as well as several other items that I'll outline, and I'll be efficient about this. The key thing I want to mention is, you've probably heard many times that this dates back to the Federal Meat Inspection Act, which has been around since 1906, and so there's a lot of laws that have changed in the past 120 years, such as women got the right to vote, gay marriage, the Minimum Wage Act, civil rights. But the important point is that those laws changed because states put pressure on the federal government. And the idea that we want to express through this action that New Hampshire can take is the federal government is looking at New Hampshire and at any states that follow in order to know how to behave and how to react. You have seen this in the past 20 years with cannabis, where it's still not federally legal, but what happened is so many states acted that the federal government put forth a memo that said we're not going to prosecute it. Now, it would be better if the federal government actually made this, fully legal. And the hurdle to that is the large monopolistic beef producers. As Senator Innes mentioned, there's only a few of them. They process, JBS processes around 26 million cows a year. And the idea that they are regulated in the same way as a farmer who might process, 36 a year is crazy. And that's where, if New Hampshire steps up, I believe other states will step up. And I think that we have an opportunity now to give a signal to the federal government that it's time to change the regulation for small farmers. I also want to mention, in the packet that you're going to get, there are 2 FOIA requests to the FSIS, and these are from 2 different organizations that asked, have there been any examples of illness from custom slaughterhouses or from on-farm slaughter? And there were no responsive documents. And it was for a period of about 10 years for each FOIA request. No responsive documents means that the FSIS did not have any evidence of any illness. I also tried to find any evidence of any illness ever from these small on-farm slaughters. And I found 2 examples where people had eaten raw pork at a private event because that's a cultural a dish in certain places, and one with venison. But all of those were as allowed by the current law, which allows a farmer to slaughter and give meat to guests. The only other examples I found were USDA inspected. So we don't actually have evidence that there has been any illness from the existing permission around on-farm slaughter and giving the meat to guests, other than eating raw pork and this one venison example. Finally, there's the humane treatment of animals issue, which I personally think is very important. It is clearly a stress to animals to be transported prior to slaughter. It also adds an emissions cost. So it adds expense costs in terms of dollars, and it adds emissions costs in terms of fuel. And the idea that we are regulating things based on this, which is essentially a false idea, that this has been in place for 120 years. The people who speak after me will speak to in more detail, but this hasn't been in place for 120 years. The FMIA was never, the legislative intent was never for on-farm slaughter in small scale, and it was never for interstate commerce. That only came into place through a lawsuit in 1982. That lawsuit didn't involve a farmer. It involved a middleman who had done something interstate and then did in-state sales. So I believe this bill has enough in place in terms of guardrails, and the evidence about illnesses being caused by on-farm slaughter isn't there. So thank you so much for your time.
Okay. All right. Would you believe there might be a farmer willing to try this?
Yes, I would actually.
All right. Well, we'll find out. All right. Rover Sutton, please. Let's do it.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senators of the Commerce Committee. My name is River Sutton, and I'm a law student here at the Law School in Concord. This bill presents an historic opportunity for New Hampshire to once again be first in the nation by allowing farmers to sell fresh, high-quality products to their neighbors without either corporate middlemen or governmental bureaucracy. New Hampshire will not only reduce government intervention, but it will encourage rural employment and foster Granite State values on a local level. As the most representative body in our country, New Hampshire knows that its values are only as strong as its citizenry. And what better way to encourage strong political participation than permitting farmers to exchange their political ideas while exchanging products and goods and services to their neighbors? After all, this bill calls to mind the famous adage of John Adams that, quote, "The jaws of power are always open to devour, and her arm is always stretched out, if possible, to destroy the freedom of thinking, speaking, and writing. To that we might add the freedom of commerce and farming." You have no doubt heard other speakers address the legal, political, social, and personal issues at stake here. To this, I wanted to add the historical background of the FMIA and its amendments, and also the economic issues at stake here too. The ability for honest, hardworking farmers to sell good meat to their neighbors, better quality than anything available in any supermarket without paying an arm and a leg. Our country right now imports approximately 10% of its total beef production from overseas. And of those importations, 1/4 of our domestic ground beef production comes from those imported cattle. And in times of global catastrophe like we saw during COVID, Americans suffered through protein scarcity because meat was unavailable in the store because the importers couldn't bring in the cattle in order to slaughter them. But also at the same time, while shortages were going on, these global meat importers were recording record profits while we were going without the food. To countenance setting our country's nutritional well-being beneath the sword of international commerce, concerned more with making money than with the health of anybody that they're selling to, is not only foolish, but is an effrontery to General Stark's famous motto of live free or die. To live free, this state's farmers must be free to raise, butcher, and sell their livestock without fear of contamination in federal facilities. To live free, they must trust that their Constitution really does delegate these powers to the people and not to the federal government. Members of the Commerce Committee, the sword of Hamilton's all-encompassing government hangs above the states. Let us wield it, or at the very least disarm it, lest we fall on it for fear of imaginary dangers. So with that, I want to turn to Senator Innes's point about the Federal Meat Inspection Act. So prior to the passage of it in 1906, there was no federal regulation whatsoever of intrastate commerce. This was considered a traditional police power left to the states. Farmers were free to sell meat until 1906. Then, with the publication of Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle, people were worried not about farmers selling bad meat, but about these big meat packing plants in Chicago or New York or things like that, where they would take some of the worst meat imported from Europe, ground it up, put boric acid and things like that in there, and then sell it to consumers there. And so the FMIA, when it was passed, was designed to only limit interstate commerce and export to foreign countries. And even then, the Supreme Court took up a case on the very question of export and imports and said that states do not export or import to each other. That only means foreign nations. And so even in the legislative history, as Brooke had mentioned in the FMIA, Congressman Gilbert Nelson Haugen, who ended up becoming chair of the Commerce Committee under FDR's administration, asked whether this would apply to the states. And he was emphatically told by the chairman and by the committee that oversaw it in 1906, no, we don't want to cover state regulation whatsoever. The only reason that the federal government can regulate intrastate commerce right now is because of Wickard v. Filburn. which was announced in 1942. And during Wickard v. Filburn, during World War II, the Supreme Court said, well, Congress can use its commerce powers under the interstate commerce because if you grow any amount of wheat in your own state, that affects the global market. And when we're trying to ration here, we want to control all wheat production, not some of it. But even after it was announced in 1942, Congress didn't amend the FMIA whatsoever. They did 2 amendments in 1942 and in 1948. They did not add interstate commerce for meat packing whatsoever. It wasn't until 1969 with the Wholesome Meat Act that they added it. And when they passed the Wholesome Meat Act, they didn't do any economic consideration of how it would affect farmers or anything. They come up with these specters such as, well, what about the poor housewife that might be buying tainted meat, as though this were a problem whatsoever. And it wasn't until 4 years later when the Small Business Administration published a retrospective on the WMA where they said, well, this is going to put thousands of meat productions out of plant. You know, about 40% of America's meat production comes from these small meat packing plants that only sell within their state. Right now, 60% of them can't get in compliance without federal funding. And what's happened because of the WMA? A bunch of butcheries and a bunch of small meat packing plants have closed their doors. And so that's why our country's meat packing and meat processing is concentrated in 13 key meat processors. And under the WMA, the first prosecution for interstate commerce wasn't until 1980 in U.S. versus Tremonti. And the person being prosecuted there was somebody who took intrastate meat and sold it in their store to somebody else. There's only been 150 prosecutions under the FMIA since, 10 for intrastate commerce, 0 for farmers whatsoever. Those 10 have always been meat packers or stores or small butchers that are selling it directly without the proper USDA labeling. And so this brings me to my current point, or the next point, with cannabis. Everybody remembers here when cannabis was illegal. It was the worst thing in the 1980s and 1990s. Well, what states ended up doing, and what New Hampshire can do here, is by saying, well, we're not going to prosecute this federal crime because we think this is completely ridiculous. And what ended up happening over 20 years or so, first with the Ogden memo published by the DOJ, and then the Colt memo published by the DOJ, is it said, well, unless this is a huge marijuana production, the DOJ will not prosecute federal crimes if local law enforcement won't help us because it is not in the DOJ's best interest to do so. And likewise here, the DOJ has only, of those cases I mentioned, of the 150 prosecutions, those 10 have been brought by the state themselves for intrastate commerce. The DOJ will not go into the state if the law enforcement does not want them to help out on this. Because, as the Supreme Court announced in Prince versus United States, the federal government cannot commandeer local law enforcement. If the local law enforcement will not cooperate, the DOJ will not go in on that. And so likewise here, there is a change brewing. Many people want to be able to buy good, wholesome quality meat from their neighbors. Many people in the federal government also want this. The current admin has expressed an interest in potentially decriminalizing this. New Hampshire has an opportunity here to pass this bill, knowing that the DOJ might not prosecute any farmers, especially if the state doesn't want to cooperate with it and it's not illegal here. And there are also other safeguards the state can impose here, such as through traditional insurance, where when cannabis was still federally illegal, insurers would still give insurance to cannabis dispensaries. You just had to pay slightly higher premiums in order to compensate for the federal potential prosecution. But because it was legal under state law, insurers don't look to see whether it's illegal under federal law. They only want to see that you are following certain precautions. And if you pay a higher insurance, not only does that incentivize you to follow and comply with state law and not run afoul of federal law, but there's also traditional civil remedies too, like, oh, you sold me bad meat. That violates the warrant of habitability or the warrant of merchantability. I can also sue you for potential damages, and the state health department can get involved too. And so this also presents another opportunity for America to go back to being independent of foreign importation of beef. And it also allows New Hampshire to be the first in the nation to once again move federal law away from government overregulation back to sane common sense principles. I welcome the committee's questions.
Are there questions? Senator Richardi.
It's a comment. You mentioned you're in law school.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to be a fabulous lawyer.
Thank you. Thank you.
UNH Law.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. General John Pepys, please. This is the last speaker. Good morning.
Good morning. Daniel John Peppa speaking. Thanks for having me today. Really excited to be here. Chair Innes, Vice Chair Ricciardi, who I just met, distinguished members of the Commerce Committee. I'm going to keep my comments really short. I think that my friends here have done a great job, and I think the chair has done a great job describing why this bill is so great. Essentially, changes in the air, as River Sutton just said. The federal government, never before in my life have members of the federal government come forward to say that they're interested in helping Americans get healthier by improving their diet as they are now. There's a lot of suggestions that have been made to help do that. One is from the top down. Just a few months ago, the Trump administration directed the DOJ to bring antitrust action against the big four meat processors. They together, I think, process 85% of our country's beef. And so that's great. If we go after those guys and clean them up a bit, maybe that makes prices more affordable for the average person and cleans things up in general. The other way to do that, obviously, is from the bottom up, and that's what we're doing here today with HB 396. Essentially, this is an opportunity for New Hampshire to lead the way, to lead a national conversation, which I think will have tremendous support among the current administration to change these essentially like overreaching, as River pointed out, federal laws. So one thing that when doing this research, preparing to see you today, I wanted to look at FSIS, the Federal Safety Inspection Service, and actually what goes into USDA inspection. I didn't know. They go by directives. Those directives are very lengthy. I've read some of them. I haven't read all of them. I'm not an expert. But my takeaway is an inspector at a USDA facility looks at the animal. They look at it. They make sure it's not sick. They make sure it's not lame. And they, what they call palpitate organs. That means feel them to make sure the animal's not sick. So, the question is, do you think the USDA facility is doing a better job than the farmer is to determine whether the animal is sick or not and is fit for consumption? I argue, obviously, the farmer who knows the animal, sees the animal every day, can do just as well, if not better, than the safety inspector who's there earning a wage. So that's the deal with visual inspection. So the other thing I want to bring up is preemption. We've talked about federal preemption here. Obviously, this law in this state would run afoul of the Federal Meat Inspection Act. So I'm not the federal government either. I'm not an inspector. I'm also not the federal government. But we've looked at maybe 5 ways that the federal government could, if they were incentivized, which I believe that they are now, fix this issue. Basically, first, the FSIS has discretion, right? They get to choose where they spend their resources. I would argue those resources are best spent looking at that 85% of beef production among these 4 big processors. The FSIS should never spend time or money, our money, coming out to a rural farm like Abby's to see if she's killing her cow right. It's just not, it's not a good use of resources, and they have the discretion to choose how they spend their money. Second, say we pass this bill and FSIS says, yeah, you guys are out of compliance. We're going to come after you. They then could make an action. If they made an action under their own regs, they are able to hold that action in abeyance. What that means is they could follow their own rules. Say, you, New Hampshire farmer, you're doing it wrong, and we're going to know that you're doing it wrong, but we're going to hold that in abeyance and say, we're still working on this, and there's no action that will actually come to a farmer. Third, the current FSIS strategic plan was written in 2023 and is coming up for renewal in 2026. This is a perfect opportunity for New Hampshire to lead the way, help write that legislation and the new guidance documents out of FSIS to make sure that little farmers like we have here can do the work they want to do. this is interesting. So there's current exemptions in the FSIS, many of them. And self-certification is something that we talked about a little bit today. I lived in Maine for a long time. Lobstermen pull lobsters out of the water every day. There's no one looking over their shoulder, and those lobsters get sold everywhere. To say that a farmer can't self-certify and be in compliance not only with state and federal law is just absurd. So finally, as River mentioned, New Hampshire has a great opportunity to be a test case at the federal level. Between HHS, FDA, and USDA, the U.S. Attorney General, like the U.S. Attorney General did with the Ogden and Cole memos, which essentially deregulated the pot business, for lack of a better term. I'm not a pot guy, so pardon me if there's pot people in the audience. Basically, a single memo can give the DOJ a stand-down order and say, just don't prosecute, which is exactly how they did pot. Finally, very, very quickly, this is really about affordability, keeping small farms in business. Everyone knows, everyone sees, we have more dilapidated and broke down farmhouses than we have brand new, freshly built farmhouses. We should do everything we can as a nation and as a state to help keep small farmers in business. This will do that. By allowing farmers to do their own slaughter, you're obviously going to increase husbandry of animals. Increasing husbandry will increase the herd size. Increasing herd size will reduce prices. Obviously, food security is a part of this. The more secure we are in our food, the more secure we are as a nation. Food security is national security. And I have some notes about the retail versus wholesale prices and how much better it can be for farmers if they were able to do all this work themselves. It keeps more of the money in state. It keeps more of the money in the farmers' pockets, which then they could obviously split with their customers and keep them coming back. So with that, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you very much.
All right. Are there any questions? Thank you for being here. Appreciate your testimony. That's all I have on the sign-up sheet for House Bill 396. Is there anyone who maybe didn't sign in who would like to speak? Yes, please. Ms. Rockefeller.
Hello. Thank you. I have been a small-scale farmer in New Hampshire for 60 years.
For the record, I'm going to intervene here. This is Abby Rockefeller from what town?
From Webster, New Hampshire.
From Webster, yes, another one of my constituents.
Sorry.
So yes, welcome.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I have raised 2 pigs every year and 2 sheep every year, and I have chickens for eggs, not for meat, actually, mostly. But I want to say that one of the strongest and most pleasurable relations in communities is the relations of food. And I learned this from Derek Owen. I don't know who knew Derek Owen. He was a state rep for, I think, 30 years, and he had a great small family farm. And he, as a state rep, introduced a bill, I think 25 years ago, about real milk, I'm going to call it. It's called raw milk, but it's really real milk, which got passed and has been functioning in this state for 25 years at least, which said that anybody raising and rather producing 20 gallons a day or less of real milk would have to be neither inspected nor certified. It's that freedom from that interference that we need to make communities strong with each other. His community, the community that spread because of he also had meat and chickens, but the milk was the big thing in those days. And New Hampshire, we have had not one single trouble. Raw milk, real milk is sold at co-ops. It's sold out of stores that I think are equipped to sell it, because I don't think what are called supermarkets are. I wouldn't want really any of my food to go through a supermarket. It's a terrible thing. But we have to fix that. And we have a chance to fix it in a second big way, because Derek's piece of work was the beginning.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? All right, appreciate being here. Final call. Anyone else who would like to speak on 396, please come join us. Good morning.
Morning. Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name's Amy Matarazzo, and my husband and I have a farm in Barnstead, New Hampshire. It's called Lauren Joyce Farm. We have sold meat and milk, raw milk, direct to consumer for about 12 years. And I have been able to use both USDA and custom butchers. And it's very important as a farmer who's out there every day, no matter how cold it is or hot, trying to provide food for New Hampshire families, that we have a choice, that we can either go USDA or non-USDA custom. We have used 5 custom butchers in the last 10 years and then 2 USDA. And we have had both good and bad experiences like most people. And we went through an experience 2 summers ago that was a USDA facility with many issues. And after that experience, it was really hard for me to trust that USDA facilities always do everything correct, because they don't. And it was really scary for me as a farmer, because things that were happening there were jeopardizing the quality of my product. And when I sell that meat to somebody and they get sick, my name is on that label, not the USDA facility. Well, they have their emblem, but my name is on it, my farm. And I'm the one that's going to get sued. And I have 2 young children here that I homeschool, and I run the farm myself. And we can't afford to go through that kind of experience. My husband and I, even at our peak year in 2020, we were doing 30 cows a year. We sold 500 gallons of milk a week. We still could not pay our house bills with the farm. So we need to make legislation work for New Hampshire farmers so that we can actually make a living, because that was my goal in life, was for us to be able to do it together, but we couldn't, because that's the reality that most New Hampshire farmers, one person works the farm and the other person has an off-farm job.
Yeah.
So, but I would like to see legislation that moves towards supporting New Hampshire farms so that we have another option someday, you know?
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, I'm going to close the hearing on House Bill 396. And we'll take just a minute here and then perhaps go into executive session and take a look at what we have before us. Yes, sir. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are in executive session, and for the folks here, we're not going to take a vote on 396 today. Sorry. We're going to amend it and make sure we've got everything right and take action on it next week. But I think I think it'll be a positive thing, but we'll get there next week and get that done. All right. There's some bills here that aren't ready yet, others that are. So I'm just going to start at the top of the executive session list with Senate Bill 415. And this one is relative to an exemption in interest in condominium units.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move all to pass.
Okay. We have a motion of ought to pass.
Second?
We have a second from Senator Reardon. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Senator Murphy first, and then Senator Reardon, please.
Thank you. I would move as committee amendment that in line 3 of the bill, 50 is changed to 20. 20 units. This is in line with testimony that was heard in the hearing report.
Okay. All right, so we have a proposed committee amendment changing the upper limit from 50 units to 20. Senator Reardon, I trust that was your point as well?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Any discussion on that? Yes.
Me.
Yes, we have a second from Senator Reardon. Any discussion on the committee amendment? No? All right. So we have a motion of ought to pass on the committee amendment with a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then Senate Bill 415. Do we have a motion? Yeah. We have an ought to pass. That's right. Okay. All in favor of Senate Bill 415, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Very good.
Move consent?
All right, we have a motion for consent. I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Senator Murphy, would you like to take this one out?
Yes, sir.
All right. Very good. 446. This is animal care centers, and there's an amendment to this. Yeah, 0557.
Sorry, 446?
Pardon?
Yes.
Yes. 446. Do we have a motion on this one with the amendment first? Well, Bill? Yes.
Move not to pass and then.
Do we have a motion? Or do we want a little more time on this one?
Move on to pass for discussion.
Okay, I'll second it for discussion. All right. So are there concerns with this one? Anything that's bothering folks?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to have to oppose the bill just because I don't believe that this little regulation is necessary or wise.
Okay.
So I'm going to be a no on the bill.
All right. Other discussion?
This is 446.
Yeah. I'm wide open.
We've heard this bill before.
Yes.
And I think they've done a lot of work on this bill. And I can't speak for everyone, but I got a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I know if something happened to that dog, my family would be heartbroken. And what recourse there is very little.
Yeah.
And I know that if I'm reading this right, Senator Ward does have an amendment that would address a lot of the committee's concerns.
Yes.
And so I'm in support of the bill with amendment. I think, like I said, we've heard this bill. They've done the work on this bill. I think it's right.
Okay. Thank you for that. Other comments? I'm supportive as well. And I think it's a reasonable step to take. It's not onerous and it does give people recourse, which is a positive thing. Senator?
I think with the work that was done, I could agree to pass this with the amendment.
Okay. I'll make a motion of ought to pass on the amendment 0557.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor of the amendment 0557, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then the bill itself, we have an ought to pass motion on 446 with a second. Oh. Yes, sir.
I know that Rover had feedback on the amendment itself.
Okay.
I don't know if we want to do that committee amendment.
Yes, if you could bring that to us, we might want a committee amendment. Thank you. Okay. Private residence for 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are you familiar with this?
We're just changing a couple words.
Yeah.
Resident and work.
Yeah, we're just changing a couple words to clean it up.
And adding in exchange for fee.
Yes. Yeah, it's just pretty simple. It would need to be a committee amendment.
Okay.
Us, we just need to make copies.
Okay, so we can wait a moment on that one. All right. Why don't we let this one sit for the moment? Can I do that? I should probably wait. Yeah. Yeah, we'll wait. Make sure we get it.
We can propose the committee amendment though now.
Yeah, we can do that. So I'll move the committee amendment as distributed.
I'll second it.
Do we have a second? Great. So minor changes.
Does anybody need a copy?
They're making some. We all
There was one on my table, and I have one on my.
have. Well, there you are. Thank you. So, yeah, you've got the old one. Okay.
I'm good with it.
Hurry up and wait. Yeah, that's-
Oh, it's 11:37,
I can do my new. Look at this.
so I can get back in here by 1.
I think so. Yes, we do. Yeah, so we'll wait on that. So hold. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, everyone has a copy of the potential committee amendment. We have a motion and a second on the committee amendment as an ought to pass. Any discussion? And all in favor of the committee amendment to 0557, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and now to the bill itself, 446. We have a motion of ought to pass with second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, 5-1 on that one.
Senator Murphy, I move consent.
I will not object to consent.
Move consent.
Second.
All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good, thank you. Dropping down 482. Oh, yeah. Senator Rashadi would like to. Even though I know you're a dog lover.
You know,
Yeah.
my dog Finley.
All right, we have 4 of them.
Jim has a dog.
All right, 482. This is the bill having to do with the Bitcoin kiosks. And we're going to make an amendment to that to try to kind of split the baby and get to a good place. So I think we'll be able to act on that one next week. Yes, yeah, we'll split the cash. Moving on to Senate Bill 508. This is relative to the Zoning Board of Adjustments appeal period, brought to us by Senator Murphy. Senator, I don't know if you want to say anything about it or make a motion.
Well, I would move ought to pass. I do have an amendment. Just ask for a second.
All right, I'll second the ought to pass motion. And you need an amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The amendment is on line 14.
Mm-hmm.
We changed that from 3 days to 10 business days.
Line 14, 3 days to 10 business days, which is 2 weeks.
That was a request or recognition of several concerns we heard from, among others, the Municipal Association, that 3 days was not enough time.
Okay. And so we're going with 10 business days?
Yes.
Okay, so it's effectively 2 weeks' time.
Did you say committee amendment or is that?
Committee.
It'll be a committee amendment. Yep. All right, so we have a committee amendment motion, right?
Yes.
And I'll second that. All in favor of the committee amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then on the bill itself, we have a motion about to pass and a second on Senate Bill 508. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. Do we have a motion for consent?
So move.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion from, I think, Senator Murphy, second from Senator Reardon. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Senator Murphy, would you take this one out?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we did the Trade Council. So we're good on that. We're gonna hold 509 and 523 for another week, just to make sure we get those right. And the same on 563. We need to get some movement on that one, Senator Reardon.
I think we met about that. We can ITL that, actually. We no longer need it.
We don't need it.
We don't need it, and I checked with liquor there. It's not, they don't need a vehicle for something else.
Even
so
better.
We can ITL it.
You have a motion then? of
I move
ITL?
ITL.
Then I'll second it.
With my
Sorry.
very own bill.
Yes, our very own.
Very own bill.
Yes. This is ITL. Direct shippers of wine.
It's all been worked out.
Yeah, as it turns out, it's not necessary, so that's where we sit. All right, all in favor of the ITL motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Move consent.
I'll second consent. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Senator Reardon, would you take that one out, should the need arise? Okay. And then the last one I think we might be able to take a look at today is 564. And this is prohibiting certain municipal development restrictions. Get to that one. 64. Here we are. And I will make a motion about to pass.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I'll move consent.
Second.
All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Aaron, I'll take that one out. And I think that does it for the day. Unless there's something else that the body would like to discuss. All right, I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for the good report.
Yeah. You have to get in up there if you want to talk to them.